Batman GM. I am your GM, your game master for the day. I have 40 years of experience. I began playing when I was 12 years old, and my experience runs from old Dungeons and Dragons through Star Wars and BattleTech, Shadowrun, and a slew of others. It's always been my philosophy that role-playing games and tabletop board games, gaming as a social medium is a great way for all walks of life to come together and enjoy camaraderie and exploring and stepping out of our comfort zone, if you will. So, this is your place at the table.
Alright, my friends, this is the Dixie Gambit from FASA, the Star Trek role-playing game that was created in the late 80s, early 90s, and this one is, looks like 86 on there. It's hard to say because, you know, I look at the, in here, and some of these, yeah, 1986. So this is copyright 1966. The copyright is based off of Paramount Pictures Corporation, the original Star Trek TV series and the concept, but this particular supplement is from 1986. This one's not actually as convoluted as the last one I did, which was a series. This one is a straight-up game module, venture module for Star Trek role-playing game, and the players take the roles of agents of Starfleet Intelligence Command assigned to discover the fate of Operation Dixie, an ill-starred covert mission sent into the Klingon Empire. The player characters must also try to recover the valuable intelligence data gathered by that lost mission and determine the identity of the Klingon spy who sabotaged it. In the course of the investigation, our players will be forced to penetrate Klingon-held space, stage a rescue operation from an Imperial prison camp, and escape from a battle group commanded by one of the Klingon Empire's most ruthless captains. Okay, so for the most part, it's the idea being here is, well, let me point out here something. It says, time for a group of 4 to 6 players. Play roles of Starfleet intelligence agents aboard a small starship in the notorious Triangle region lying between the borders of the UFP, the Klingon, blah, blah, blah. It is possible to vary the size of the group. If desired, a lone player could participate, for example, or a group of 10 or more could play, but certain essential facts must remain constant. First, at least half the player characters should be Klingon human fusions who are now, for one reason or another, in the service of the Starfleet. Okay, so theoretically speaking, this could be a one-on-one games adventure. It's just you and one friend, and you're in some slow time. This would be one of those things that would be easily adapted to that concept. There's a lot of GMs and players out there who are leery of having the solo gameplay. I have done a lot of those over the years, and if you got an invested player who buys into it, and you've got a good rapport, you can do a lot of good stuff with it. You can do some quite detailed stuff with it that gives you some advantages. It's not too unlike the old game system of Top Secret. If you were familiar with, I know that they rebooted it, and I know that there's probably a couple other game systems out there. There's elements of Shadowrun that are really excellent for doing spy type stuff, and that's kind of what we're looking at here. The idea being is that you have a Klingon human fusion Klingon who's gone to work for Starfleet. He's, for whatever reason, he's been recruited or has joined Starfleet Intelligence, and he or she is then able to have an easier go of moving around the Klingon Empire, as opposed to a straight-up human. The other possibility would be to have a human who's undergone alterations to have that physical look. Now, there's some downsides to that, because if for whatever reason there's a biological scan that needs to be done, or there's a medical scan that's done, or some certain kinds of security sensors might detect that there's no human or there's no Klingon mixture in that biological makeup that makes the person. So, there's some other dangers there if you want to go that route. But the idea is at some point in previous this, the Federation, Starfleet intelligence specifically, had equipped a number of freighters, Klingon freighters, and with some Klingon crews, or mostly Klingon crews, and other nefarious types recruited out of the Triangle, and sent them on a long-range patrol, if you will, of the Klingon Empire. Ideally, they were to go from trade port to trade port, moving around and quietly observing and taking pictures and holograms and gathering information about how everything, how the Klingons work, their political situation, what kinds of ships do they see, get a number count of ships that they do see when they see them, so on and so forth. And then at some point, the entire mission went belly up, and it's suspected because that there was a counter agent in there that basically sold them out, or somebody sold them out. And now your character or characters are going to pursue this and try to find out what happened, and if possible regain any information and or personnel from Operation Dixie that you can. So here's the adventure, introductory story. See, it says Operation Dixie report 19/C-3, Officer Arvin Travansar recording transmission to broadcast. Computer analyst allows for no appreciable doubt. This mission has been penetrated, compromised, and betrayed by a double agent. The loss of Dixie Queen and Dixie Princess, our own difficulties, see report 18C3, and the breakdown of the Dixie project can only be attributed to betrayal. This opinion has been endorsed by Security Officer Vestel Krinth and by the captain. On my own authority and contrary to operational protocol, it is my intention to transmit the data gathered by the Dixie Queen and the Dixie Princess, for I doubt very much that we shall reach Starbase 12 to deliver the data tapes per procedure. The request is hereby made for a relief mission per captain's instructions. We all know no relief mission can reach us in timed data transmission to follow. Stand by for USS Dixie Queen sealed report. Scramble code 23, priority red, clearance Dixie Prime, top secret. So there's you in a nutshell. So we got the starting that goes from the past in the Triangle, priority codes from the story, pointing out information on some of the people who were in there, getting ready for this next mission. Now the mission is to go search out the lost Dixie ship, the Dixie Lady specifically. Like here, this portion of the adventures, the characters the opportunity to use techniques of espionage and undercover investigation to discover the truth behind two of the main sightings of the Dixie Lady shuttlecraft. This is it, and that's the planet, by the way. And it's an interesting. The person who discovered a planet said something to somebody, and they said, "Well, this is it," and that's how it got named. Right? Richmond Enterprises Corporation. Klingon connection to the corporation, turn to the Dixie Lady. Discovery means, of course, that the ship must be returned to Starfleet hands. Once again, how this is done will depend on the players. If they're using cover identity, wealthy investors, they'll have access to Starfleet. So potentially, there's several avenues of pursuit if you get in here. New challenge, return to previous work. Following to recover the USS Dixie Lady, events move into higher gear as the SFIC takes official cognizance of the case. Before long, characters are again called upon to follow the trail of Operation Dixie, backtracking to Merum 9, search of a clue on the location of Dixie prisoners. And the rescue will be one of these officers of major importance, and it will lead to the characters to an exciting confrontation with Klingon guard forces on our Imperial labor camp. Pretty straightforward there. All the next ones in there, Project Mixerman. Here's the rescue mission, typical commando stuff. Dixie Triumphant. In this segment, eventually the characters have a chance to retrieve the real Dixie information and return home in triumph. Having discovered that Mukta is a mole, the adventurers can use the interrogation skill to make him talk. Seeing Game Master's notes on judging Klingon characters. A successful interrogation revealed that Killer is keeping Arvin Tari-Bandasir, another of the Dixie prisoners, at the base's headquarters facilities. Believe that Arvin somehow concealed the real information gathered by Operation Dixie, but no one knows where. Despite nearly a year of interrogation, Tari-Bandasir has managed to keep from breaking and revealing a secret. This missing piece of the puzzle and the discovery of Monica's sweeping plot Plan White File will lead to the adventures of their final task, the difficult and dangerous job of freeing Ty Benzir from a base headquarters and then escaping alive. The ultimate Klingon plan described in the Game Master's information chapter. See, under interrogation, Klingon spy will provide only bits and pieces of the overall scheme. Full summary of the project is also contained in Kimber's office, a small computer system not directly tied to the base records. And then we return engagement, pursuit at warp speed. Characters raid the HQ, escape back to their ship, face a dangerous ship pursuit by Klingon ships, some of which are perfectly capable of keeping up with the warp shuttle. Coming home. Escape from Rex and 9 and return to Arvin to Freeman's port. They will have done the Federation a good turn indeed. Arvin carries the missing Dixie records in a tiny chip hidden in his artificially reinforced leg. The chip is self-erasing and can only be played once. It is in SFIC computer bank. Thus, the adventurers cannot examine the data for themselves. Though some of the Dixie officers will know some of the contents of the files, no one knows all of it. None of them are talking. They do reveal, however, that the Dixie tapes contain a great deal of important sensitive data on the Kinshaya, a race that occupies the demons that occupy the space on the far side of the Federation. Knowledge of the Kinshaya will, they say, be important to the formulation of future UFB policies toward the Klingons. And that's brought up in the Klingon books, that there's this demon-like race of highly technological, capable aliens that just absolutely give no quarter and are brutally capable of fighting the Klingons, not only to a standstill, but putting them back on their heels. And it has caused the Klingons no end of issues on the other end of their space, which is one of the reasons they can no longer expand forward in that direction, because they're checked by a much more powerful, physically speaking and technologically speaking, race of aliens and then the Federation, which brings them more and more in conflict with the Federation. So we have some breakdown of some of the ships that are available. These can be also fighting the Star Trek's Klingon ship recognition. Then we got some maps for Klingon base headquarters. Cast of characters. So you got a bunch of pre-generated player characters if you don't want to create your own. And you have some stats that go by. See if you do create one, that you have one that's fairly competent to do what they do. And we have a handout that would ideally be given to the players. So in my case, if I ever did that, I would Xerox a copy of this. I've made those mistakes in the past of actually separating these things out, and then you lose them and you never get them back. I'm just saying. More NPCs. Klingon human mixes. A few regular humans and a few others added in here. Some very colorful characters too. The typical Klingon junior officer. Typical exile prisoner, or Dixie prisoner. Typical colonist, typical guerrilla. Hints on play, Game Master's notes. Replaying players' information, personal outcomes, adventure guide. Rather, we got planet bio for a couple of the planets. There you go. Not too bad. The Dixie Gambit, right? Keep your phasers on stun.